How often have you felt that pull, that subtle whisper telling you that if you don't act now, you will be left behind? You see others rushing into fleeting opportunities, chasing trends that spark like firecrackers in a summer sky, and you wonder if you are making a mistake by not joining them. The Stoics knew well that this fear of missing out on what others have can cloud the mind, robbing you of clarity and leading you to make foolish decisions. Consider how Marcus Aurelius would have seen it, stepping back from the frenzy, reminding himself that rational thought must guide action, not the desperate urge to claim every shiny prize. Do you realize how often wealth slips through one's fingers not because of scarcity, but because of reckless haste? Can you see yourself pausing just for a breath before leaping after the latest stock tip or crypto promise, asking, what truly lies beneath my longing? Is it substance or illusion? The Stoics would encourage you to find the stillness inside, to recognize that real gain is not measured in sudden profits, but in the richness of your self-mastery and calm. Is it not true that when we slow our minds, when we cease running after every glittering distraction, we become better at seeing the path that actually leads to lasting peace? If you were to hold an ember in your hand, would you not first check if it burns before you grasp it? The Stoics remind us that rushing into the unknown without question is like diving headfirst into a shallow pool, resulting in unnecessary pain. Emotional control secrets start by taming that wild hunger for more, that gnawing feeling that you are somehow incomplete if you do not participate in every gamble or every social craze. Have you asked yourself why? Why do you fear that if you don't invest in that one opportunity, you will lose your chance at happiness? Epictetus would whisper, "Do not place your happiness on that which lies outside your control, for your fate rests in how you choose to respond to life's offerings." Can you imagine yourself watching a crowd race toward a dangling lure, yet you remain grounded like a pillar of reason, unmoved by the shaking ground? Modern Stoic thinkers say that the greatest wealth is found in the stability of your mind, not the volatility of your holdings. How will you train your heart to remain steady, to see past illusions of quick enrichment, and to embrace the slow and certain growth of patience, discipline, and prudence? Look around. Can you recall a moment when fear of missing out pushed you into a decision you later regretted? Perhaps you poured funds into a market peak, only to watch it crumble, while the Stoics would have gently reminded you that desire ungoverned leads to downfall. They knew this ancient truth. The calmer your mind, the sharper your vision, the more wisely you tread through uncertain terrain. Do you notice how, when you refrain from grasping at every new device, event, or market wave, you begin to see what truly matters, what truly nourishes your soul? Seneca would say, "Do not let the outside world dictate your inner calm, for your true wealth resides in your capacity to remain composed." Do you sense how your emotions slow? Your breathing deepens as you recognize that the rush of others need not define your course. The Stoics taught us that FOMO is a siren song, and if we navigate life by the steady compass of reason, we can sail past the rocks of impulsive error. Will you dare to let go of the frenzy, to embrace the quiet power of restraint, and find that by missing out on chaos, you are truly gaining life's rarest treasure? The Stoics advise that to win the war against FOMO, you must first learn to see that the battlefield exists within your own mind. Imagine that each impulse to leap without thought is like a gust of hot wind, carrying nothing substantial, just dust and noise. Can you feel how your heart rate slows when you remind yourself that no true wealth, no true inner peace, comes from desperate lunges at the unknown? Observe how markets rise and fall like the leaves on spring and autumn seasons and ask yourself, would the Stoics be impressed by those who chase illusions, or by those who remain calm while others lose themselves? Do you think the wise stand outside the fray, calmly deciding what is within their control and what must be let go, like a puff of smoke in the evening air? Let the words of a modern Stoic philosopher echo. Greatness is not found in endless pursuits, but in the stillness that allows wisdom to emerge. Will you learn to trust yourself enough to walk away from the frantic scramble and still find that you have lost nothing of value? When you consider the Stoics, do you see how their teachings align perfectly with navigating today's world of trends and fleeting promises? They understood that your fears and desires can tie you to false hopes, that your mind can become a prisoner of external temptations. Imagine that your longing to join every new wave of wealth is like trying to catch smoke with your fingers. The tighter you squeeze, the less you hold. Have you not found that the more desperate your pursuit, the more it slips from your grasp? Ask yourself, what is it that I truly value? Is it the shallow applause of momentary success, or the deeper joy of a balanced and unwavering spirit? Modern Stoics repeat this lesson. Your worth is not defined by your net worth, but by the harmony that sings in your heart when you act with reason, not compulsion. Can you learn to let others chase shadows, while you remain anchored to the steady ground of virtue? In that silence, in that calm acceptance of what you can and cannot control, you will find a treasure beyond price, your own tranquility. Have you ever paused to reflect on how quickly trends fade, how fleeting the so-called opportunities can be? The Stoics teach that to be truly rich, you must learn to be content with enough and to know that what seems scarce is often abundant when seen through the lens of gratitude. Consider how easily people are swept away by the frenzy of markets or the allure of new events, as if each one might offer a key to lasting fulfillment. Ask yourself, are you dancing to the tune of a world that does not know you? Or are you following the steady drumbeat of your own clear mind? The Stoics remind us that if you choose to rest your happiness on things outside your control, you have built your home on shifting sands. Do you see now that your mind, calm and steady, can perceive truths invisible to those blinded by panic? The modern Stoics call this the art of inward wealth, for when you master it, no outer trend can uproot the garden of your peace. Will you dare to turn inward, to shape your desires with reason, and thereby discover a life not marred by the fear of missing out, but graced by the courage to stand still? Have you noticed how FOMO stirs the heart like a restless drum, pounding away your calm and reason? The Stoics would say that emotions uncontrolled are like untamed beasts, and if you feed them fear and haste, they grow larger and more destructive. Think of the moment you felt compelled to buy into something you barely understood, just because everyone else was doing it. Did it not leave you feeling hollow afterward? Ask yourself, do I want to be led by the chaotic currents of public frenzy, or guided by the steady light of inner wisdom? Consider the ancient Stoics who, faced with uncertainties of their own age, found that the key to freedom was to desire nothing that lies beyond one's capacity to choose wisely. Do you see that in refraining from chasing every passing fancy, you gain the ability to evaluate what truly enriches your soul? Modern Stoics echo this wisdom, reminding you that a mind untethered to fleeting externals stands firm when others falter. Will you let the Stoics teach you to transform FOMO from a curse into a teacher, urging you to refine your perspective and refine your motives? Close your eyes and envision the marketplace of life, crowded with voices, flashing lights, and temptations that promise instant satisfaction. The Stoics stand quietly in a corner, observing, not shaken by the roar, seeing beyond appearances to the subtle truth that not all that glitters is gold. Ask yourself, how many regrets sprout from seeds planted in moments of impatience, in decisions made while trembling with the fear of missing out? Have you not learned from your past that when the mind is calm it discerns more clearly what is truly gainful and what is hollow? Recall the teachings of Epictetus, who would say that the key to freedom is recognizing what depends on you and what does not. Can you resist the pull to participate in every craze and instead keep your eyes on what your inner reason deems worthy? Modern thinkers add that while opportunities may come and go, character and virtue remain the bedrock upon which real success rests. Will you stand tall in that crowd, unmoved by illusions, an example of composure for all who pass by? There is a subtle beauty in letting go of the race, in deciding that missing out on petty pursuits is no loss at all. The Stoics remind you that your emotional life need not be dragged along behind every rumor or market swing like a rag in the wind. Ask yourself, if I quiet my cravings, what remains? What shines forth from within? Consider that true emotional control is not about shutting down your feelings, but about guiding them gently, like a skilled musician tuning strings to find perfect harmony. By learning to ignore the fear of missing out, you create space in your heart for joy that does not depend on external triggers. Can you see how your power grows as you refuse to be swayed by the promise of easy gains? The modern Stoics say that this is emotional alchemy, transforming base impulses into the gold of steady inner wealth. Will you choose to break the chains of FOMO and taste the sweetness of authentic freedom, a life governed by your reasoned choices rather than your fears? Have you asked yourself why you fear missing out? Why the absence of certain experiences or possessions gnaws at your peace? The Stoics believed that our interpretations, not external events, shape our suffering. So could it be that you are weaving your own chains? Imagine that you stand on a busy street where merchants shout their deals and everyone points at a prize only a few can have. Do you realize that if you never knew of that prize, you would never feel lacking, and thus never feel distress? Ask yourself, who dictates the conditions of your happiness? You or the crowd's chorus consider that by stepping away from the frenzy, you remove the power these illusions hold over your heart. Modern Stoics suggest that the moment you understand you lack nothing essential is the moment you become truly wealthy. Will you dare to see that what you thought you needed is but a mirage, and that your deepest richness lies safe within your own steady spirit? Close your mind's eye to the rushing world and listen to the quiet voice of reason resting in your chest. The Stoics teach that fear of missing out is fear of something that may not even serve you, something that may vanish as soon as it appears. Do you remember the times you followed others blindly, only to end up in places you never wished to be? Ask yourself, what if I cultivated the skill to choose deliberately, to welcome or reject opportunities based solely on whether they align with my values? Consider the calm that descends when you accept that not all doors must be opened, not all paths must be walked. The Stoics would say that serenity blossoms when you understand that your true domain is your inner life, a garden untouched by the storms outside. Modern Stoic thinkers emphasize that lasting fulfillment arises from quality over quantity, from depth rather than breadth. Will you learn that there is strength in refusing to chase every glittering promise, and in that refusal, find the quiet power of your authentic self? Look upon the frenzy with compassion, not anger, understanding that many are caught in its snare. The Stoics advise that emotional control means not only reining in your own impulses, but also understanding that others do what they do because they know no better way. Ask yourself, do I seek wisdom or do I seek approval? Do I want to be right or do I want to be whole? Consider that the fear of missing out can trap you like a desperate gambler who cannot step away from the table, always hoping the next hand brings wealth. The Stoics would say that this gambler fails to see that true wealth is not found in uncertain bets but in the certainty of one's own virtue. Modern Stoics echo that peace is the product of letting go, of embracing that what you have is enough, and that chasing more brings only more chains. Can you see now that emotional mastery begins when you realize that your heart need not race alongside the crowd? Will you choose to slow down, to allow tranquility to fill the spaces once occupied by restless desire, and discover that in doing so, you have not missed anything worth having? Have you considered that fear of missing out is often rooted in the illusion that value is scarce, that opportunities are like gold coins scattered in a vast desert? The Stoics suggest that what truly matters is rarely in short supply. Wisdom, courage, temperance, these do not vanish like currency in a volatile market. Do you understand that by grasping for every external reward, you limit your capacity to nurture the inner virtues that the Stoics hold so dear? Ask yourself, what if I placed my energy into cultivating steadiness of character, rather than scrambling after uncertain gains? Consider how many times the promise of wealth was nothing but a bubble, dissolving at the first touch of reality. The Stoics would say that true fortitude shines when you stand firm as others panic, maintaining your inner balance while they scatter to and fro. Modern Stoics echo that resilience is not measured in how much you acquire, but in how calmly you carry yourself when others lose their way. Will you choose to trust that real abundance comes not from fleeting profits but from the quiet richness of a mind at peace? Imagine the restless hands that grasp at every shiny token, not realizing that their constant motion prevents them from ever holding anything securely. The Stoics encourage you to ask, do I truly need this? Or am I just afraid that without it, I will be less? Consider that by asking this question each time you encounter a tempting prospect, you begin to filter out the hollow dreams from the meaningful opportunities. Do you see that emotional control is about mastering your judgments? Understanding that desire is often a poor guide, easily manipulated by the spectacle of the moment. Recall that the Stoics believed your perception shapes your reality, so changing how you see these fleeting chances transforms how they affect you. Modern Stoics advise that you lean into patience, allow time to reveal which opportunities hold substance and which are empty shells. Can you find strength in stillness, valuing the slow growth of solid foundations over the frantic pursuit of hollow peaks? Will you learn that by stepping back, by letting others rush past, you gain a clarity that money cannot buy? Have you noticed that when you watch a crowd chase something trivial, it often loses its appeal once their frenzy cools? The Stoics say that life's greatest treasures rarely come wrapped in panic, but are discovered in moments of clarity and thoughtful choice. Ask yourself, can you trust the advice of those who shout the loudest, or is wisdom found in the calm reflections of those who have learned from experience? Consider that your fear of missing out dissolves the moment you realize that missing out on illusions is no loss at all. Remember that the Stoics revered self-control as a path to true freedom, for if you can master your impulses, no external event can rule you. Modern Stoic voices echo that to remain unmoved by the storm of speculation is to find shelter that no wind can tear down. Can you embrace the idea that what truly belongs to you cannot be lost in the tide of passing trends? Will you step aside, relinquish the chase, and find that your life grows richer with every unnecessary desire you discard? Have you taken the time to see that fear of missing out often springs from comparing yourself to others, as if their gains dictate your worth? The Stoics teach that each person's path is unique, and that striving to imitate another's fortune leads only to unrest. Do you realize that your journey, your opportunities, your lessons, all differ from those around you, and thus chasing their dreams will never bring you your own fulfillment? Ask yourself, do I want to be a reflection of someone else's story, or do I wish to write my own chapter with clear purpose? Consider how peaceful your mind becomes when you detach from the crowd's frenzy, allowing your inner compass to guide you. The Stoics would say that the path to genuine prosperity is found when you stop measuring success by others' standards and start nurturing the qualities that make you whole. Modern Stoics whisper that in letting go of envy and fear, you grow lighter, swifter, more attuned to what truly matters. Will you claim your independence by refusing to panic over missed chances, trusting that what is meant for you will align with your values, not your insecurities? Imagine standing at a crossroads where one path is crowded with frantic figures all chasing glimmers, and another leads into a quiet landscape under a gentle sky. The Stoics advise that truth often resides in quiet spaces, where time slows and insights emerge without force. Do you see how FOMO can blind you to simpler joys, making you forget that life unfolds beautifully even when you are not grasping at every glittering thread? Ask yourself, if I refrain from this chase, what do I gain in return? Peace, reflection, a steadier understanding of who I am and what I seek. Remember that the Stoics revered the control of passions, understanding that unexamined desire leads people astray, like moths to a flame. Modern Stoics echo that self-awareness is the antidote to fear, as it helps you distinguish genuine opportunities from passing illusions. Can you honor your time and energy by refusing to fritter them away on superficial trends? Will you choose to walk the quieter path, hearing the wisdom of stillness, and discovering that in doing so you have not missed out but rather found something priceless? Have you noticed how your senses sharpen when you no longer panic about being left behind? The Stoics teach that when you free your mind from needless worry, you perceive the world more clearly, discerning what is worthy of your attention. Ask yourself, what if opportunities are not so rare, but become apparent only when you are calm enough to notice them? Consider that by letting go of fear, you may find better paths to growth, investments that align with your principles, relationships that enrich your character. The Stoics believed that fate weaves our experiences, and it is not by frantic grasping that we align with our destiny, but by acting wisely and patiently. Modern Stoics encourage you to trust in the flow of time, to know that what truly benefits you cannot be rushed into your grasp, nor can it be missed if you remain true to yourself. Can you welcome the stillness that follows the silence of fear, like a gentle whisper reminding you that you are enough here and now? Will you embrace emotional control, knowing that by doing so, you live not in lack, but in quiet, resilient abundance? Have you thought deeply about why the Stoics stress focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you cannot? Fear of missing out often draws you into struggles over things beyond your influence, making you flail in pursuit of illusions. Do you understand that by directing your energy toward cultivating your own reason and judgment, you fortify yourself against the instability of fleeting trends? Ask yourself, when I pour my effort into mastering my emotions, refining my perspective, and acting with intention, do I not become more immune to the panic that grips so many? Consider how a well-trained mind resists manipulation by external forces, refusing to chase every shadow that passes by. The Stoics would say that when you know who you are and what matters to you, the siren song of FOMO falls upon deaf ears. Modern Stoics echo that inner stability is the cornerstone of a life unshaken by the whims of fortune. Will you train your thoughts until the fear of missing out transforms into the joy of staying true to your own purpose? Imagine how it feels to wake each morning without the gnawing worry that you are falling behind in a race you never truly signed up for. The Stoics encourage you to ask yourself, if I measure my life not by what I acquire, but by the strength of my character, would I still fear missing out? Do you see how shifting your measure of success changes everything, turning the world from a relentless competition into a canvas on which you paint your values? Ask, if I value wisdom and integrity above transient gains, can I ever truly miss out? Or am I always moving toward deeper fulfillment? Consider that while trends vanish like morning dew, virtue endures and enriches you as long as you breathe. The Stoics would say that by placing your happiness in stable, internal qualities, you make yourself rich beyond material measure. Modern Stoics remind you that true fortune smiles on those who learn to need less, to crave less, and to find beauty in simplicity. Will you choose to see that by conquering FOMO, you open a door to a realm where contentment replaces craving and gratitude outshines greed? Have you seen how many seek shortcuts believing that by chasing every opportunity, they can somehow outsmart uncertainty? The Stoics teach that life's nature is not to be cheated or tricked, but to be understood and cooperated with. Do you realize that frantic effort to grasp it all only exhausts your spirit, leaving you weaker than before? Ask yourself, what if I trust the natural flow of events, guiding my steps with reason and patience rather than frenzy? Consider how simple your life becomes when you no longer struggle to hold what cannot be held, freeing your hands to nurture what truly matters. The Stoics would say that by loving your fate, by embracing reality as it unfolds, you align with nature and cease competing against it. Modern Stoics echo that acceptance is not resignation but wisdom, freeing you from the burden of impossible desires. Will you embrace this path, learning that to conquer the fear of missing out, you must first learn to live in harmony with what is, rather than what you fantasize could be? Have you paused to consider that the fear of missing out is often a teacher, showing you where your attachments lie and where you must grow? The Stoics would have you use this feeling not as a whip to drive you into rash action, but as a compass pointing toward areas of inner weakness. Do you see that by examining your fear, you discover hidden beliefs and assumptions that can be challenged and transformed? Ask yourself, what stories do I tell myself about my worth that I believe I must chase after all that glitters to prove my value? Consider that by questioning these narratives, you reclaim your power, shaping your identity around chosen virtues rather than inherited insecurities. The Stoics might say that each pang of FOMO is an opportunity to refine your soul, to purge it of hollow longings. Modern Stoics add that embracing discomfort and questioning your impulses leads to growth that no external gain could match. Will you step into that discomfort, let it show you the cracks in your foundations, and then mend those cracks with steady wisdom? Imagine a world where you act only after careful thought, where each decision is weighed against your principles, not your fears. The Stoics encourage you to find that world within yourself, building it brick by brick, choice by choice. Do you understand that emotional control does not mean denying your feelings, but directing them like a master conductor guiding an orchestra into harmony? Ask yourself, am I willing to do the hard work of self-inquiry, of learning to differentiate between genuine opportunities and the empty noise of a restless crowd? Consider that the more adept you become at recognizing these distinctions, the freer you grow from the influence of FOMO. The Stoics would say that in mastery of self lies mastery of fate, for though you cannot shape all events, you can shape your response to them. Modern Stoics echo that this mastery does not come through passive acceptance but through active engagement with your own mind. Will you dare to seize this inner power, to walk the path of intentional living where your choices reflect your values rather than your fears? Have you realized that by overcoming the fear of missing out, you open space in your life for deeper endeavors? The Stoics knew that time is our most precious resource, and wasting it on illusions costs more than any missed opportunity. Do you see that when you no longer scramble to keep pace with others, you gain the luxury of moving at your own rhythm? Ask yourself, what will I do with this freedom, if not chase after hollow prizes? Consider that when freed from the chains of FOMO, you can invest your energy in relationships that nourish your soul, in learning that expands your mind, in creativity that expresses your essence. The Stoics would say that a life lived with intention shines brighter than all the fleeting ornaments of the marketplace. Modern Stoics affirm that the wealth of a calm mind, a stable heart, and a purposeful life far exceeds any material gain. Will you accept this gift, this liberation from FOMO's grasp, and embrace the serenity it grants you? Have you asked yourself if the approval of others still matters once you learn to trust your own judgment? The Stoics remind us that depending on external validation entangles us in worry, especially when it comes to not following the crowd into every trend. Do you realize that by standing firm in your convictions, you break free from the tyranny of public opinion? Ask yourself, what if I no longer needed to keep up with what everyone else does and allowed myself to value what resonates with my inner truth? Consider that by doing so, you may well lose the applause of some, but gain the unwavering respect of your own conscience. The Stoics would say that a steady heart, focused on virtue rather than flash, sees beyond the horizon of temporary praise. Modern Stoics echo that the relief of living authentically surpasses any fleeting satisfaction that comes from fitting in. Will you find comfort in your own skin, untouched by the shrill cries of a world desperate to drag you into its anxious race? Imagine that you stand before a table laden with countless dishes, each promising delight, but you know you cannot taste them all. The Stoics encourage you to choose thoughtfully, to pick what truly sustains you, rather than sampling everything for fear of missing a single flavor. Do you see that by selecting with care you savor more deeply what you do have rather than living in perpetual dissatisfaction? Ask yourself, is not the fullness of life found in appreciating what is at hand, rather than chasing ghosts of what might be? Consider that by learning to be content with enough, you transform scarcity into abundance, because what you have fully enjoyed is worth more than all that remains unattainable. The Stoics would say that happiness is not found by multiplying desires but by subtracting them. Modern Stoics echo that to conquer FOMO is to step out of the rat race, to see that the wheel never stops turning for those who refuse to step off. Will you dare to be still, to savor each moment and discover that in doing so, you live more richly than ever before? Have you learned by now that missing out is not the real threat, but losing yourself in endless pursuits that yield no peace? The Stoics teach that the price of chasing every whim is often losing the grounding sense of who you are. Do you understand that by allowing FOMO to dictate your actions, you risk becoming a stranger to your own values? Ask yourself, can I afford to surrender my identity for the chance at uncertain profit or fleeting excitement? Consider that your emotional control is your shield, protecting you from becoming a puppet moved by others' strings. The Stoics would say that when you wield self-mastery, no trend can uproot your calm, no missed event can shake your confidence. Modern Stoics add that in this immunity lies true freedom, the kind that endures long after passing currents recede. Will you claim that freedom, standing firm as yourself, unwilling to pay the price FOMO demands, and in doing so, become a beacon of tranquility in a world of restless striving. Have you seen how over time patterns emerge and those who chase everything end up exhausted, while those who hold steady find themselves enriched? The Stoics suggest that by taking the long view, you see the folly of rushing into unknown ventures, the bruises and scars they leave behind. Do you realize that patience, that rare and underrated virtue, often bears sweeter fruit than hurried attempts at seizing illusions? Ask yourself, if I consistently act with wisdom and restraint, might I not eventually accumulate true wealth? Of character, of insight, and yes, even of material stability. Consider that fortune often smiles on those who plan carefully and invest only in what aligns with their principles. The Stoics would say that consistency in thought and action is the bedrock of a well-lived life. Modern Stoics echo that emotional control, cultivated over time, guards you from being tossed about by every change in the wind. Will you choose the path of steady growth, understanding that what you do not chase today might return to you tomorrow in a form more worthy of your trust? Imagine holding a precious jewel, its value not in its sparkle, but in the care with which you selected it. The Stoics invite you to become a discerning collector of opportunities, taking only those that resonate with your reasoned judgment. Do you see that by treating your choices as treasures, you learn to distinguish gold from fool's gold? Ask yourself, am I willing to move slowly, to weigh pros and cons, to listen to the voice of wisdom before leaping into the unknown? Consider that each decision made in calm deliberation strengthens your discipline, making it easier to resist FOMO's temptations next time. The Stoics would say that through practice, self-control becomes your natural state, no longer a struggle, but a habit. Modern Stoics affirm that each test you pass makes you stronger. Each temptation resisted clarifies your vision. Will you rejoice in this incremental mastery, knowing that the peace you gain outweighs any fleeting thrill of short-lived gains? Have you ever known someone who seemed immune to the chaos around them, calm amidst panic, focused amidst distraction? The Stoics teach that you can become such a person, not by magic, but through careful cultivation of emotional control. Do you realize that by committing to this path, you set yourself apart, becoming a rare presence of steadiness in a world ruled by impulses? Ask yourself, what if I become that anchor for others, demonstrating that missing out on trifles is no tragedy but a blessing in disguise? Consider that leadership is not only found in guiding others' actions, but in showing them how to be unafraid of what they cannot have. The Stoics would say that by living your values, you illuminate the way for others to follow. Modern Stoics echo that this quiet strength is more influential than any frenzy of trends. Will you embrace your role as a beacon of calm, inspiring others to break free from FOMO's chains and discover the lasting peace that lies beyond? Have you pondered how life would look if you never again felt the sting of regret from chasing empty promises? The Stoics assure you that such liberation is possible when you align your desires with reason, discarding the clutter of superficial wants. Do you see that by focusing on what you can genuinely control, your judgments, choices, and responses, you forge a state of inner independence? Ask yourself, if I no longer waste time on illusions, how much richer will my life become in substance and meaning? Consider that by stepping away from the crowd, you gain the vantage point to see what truly matters, much like looking at a landscape from a quiet hill, rather than being lost in the valley's noise. The Stoics would say that the joy of missing out on nonsense is greater than the pain of feeling excluded. Modern Stoics echo that by cultivating this wisdom, you free yourself from the tyranny of trends and the emptiness of pointless ambition. Will you take this lesson to heart, allowing it to guide you toward a life directed by clarity, rather than distorted by fear? Imagine the comfort that settles into your bones when you realize that what you have chosen is enough, that you no longer need to prove anything by stretching beyond your means. The Stoics encourage this state of equilibrium, where your soul is stable because it relies only on what it can secure from within. Do you understand that once you stop running toward external illusions, you find yourself standing on solid ground, able to explore your true interests without haste? Ask yourself, if I channel my energy into learning and growing in ways that align with my nature, will I ever truly miss out? Consider that in following your inner compass, you discover paths that bring lasting satisfaction, unhindered by the fleeting judgments of others. The Stoics would say that in mastery of self lies the gateway to a freedom that no external event can block. Modern Stoics confirm that within this freedom, you uncover a depth of character that makes chasing after superficial gains seem foolish. Will you honor your unique path, trust your judgment, and find fulfillment that endures even when the crowd rushes elsewhere? Have you realized that the secret of emotional control lies not in having no emotions, but in choosing which ones you nourish and which ones you starve? The Stoics teach that by feeding calm, patience, and understanding, you weaken the grip of fear and anxiety. Do you see that this is not a loss of feeling but a refinement, a honing of your emotional palate to savor only what enlightens you? Ask yourself, do I prefer a life filled with frantic cravings or a life softened by wisdom's gentle light? Consider that the more you resist FOMO's call, the stronger your will becomes, until no passing trend can disturb your tranquility. The Stoics would say that true wealth is found in the soul's resilience, the mind's clarity, and the heart's contentment. Modern Stoics echo that no external gain can compare to the glow of inner strength. Will you learn this ultimate secret? That by choosing what emotions to cultivate, you become the architect of your destiny. Have you noticed that as we circle back to the essence of these emotional control secrets, we arrive at a truth as simple as it is profound? The Stoics remind us again and again that the power to define your experience lies in your perspective, not in the world's uncertain offerings. Do you see now that fear of missing out is but a veil, a trick of the mind that urges you to dance to someone else's tune? Ask yourself, if I embrace what is truly mine, my reason, my virtue, my deliberate choices, can I ever again feel impoverished by what I do not possess? Consider that the wealth of peace and understanding you cultivate within can withstand any storm of trends or passing fancies. The Stoics would say that by cherishing this inner sanctuary, you walk freely through markets of illusion untouched and unbent. Modern Stoics echo that the measure of your life's worth is not in what you acquire, but in the calm you maintain when facing all that you cannot hold. Will you accept this gift? Let it settle in your heart, and from this day forward, approach life without fear of missing out, but with the quiet certainty that you are enough.